Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the third series of the film on Soviet and Russian and Soviet design. And today we have special guest, Svetlana Chirikova, who is the curator of multimedia project with Moscow Design Museum, who will introduce the episode number 3. And I give the floor to Svetlana.
Hi, my name is Svetlana Chirkova, and good afternoon to everybody. I was the co-author, I'm the co-author, the script writer, and the executive producer of this movie. So I've got actually a lot to tell you, but I will try to make it shorter. So I've got some short opening word. I wanted to say that this is a unique project as it covers 100 years of Russian design history, starting from the revolution and ending with contemporary design. And nothing of such kind have ever been done before. So it was unique in the beginning already, but also we did our best to bring this movie, to show it to as many people as we could. And we got lucky to get on TV, and this movie was broadcasted by TV Culture Russia all across the country during the New Year holidays. And in Russia, they usually take like 2 weeks approximately. So this is a period of time when people have nothing to do. They stay at home and watch TV. And we really hope that many Russian citizens watched this movie then. And of course, when I was writing the script, I actually imagined some girl or boy in the countryside who turns on TV and watches this movie and thinks like, whoa. And it was my inspiration, and that was what we aimed for. And another thing I wanted to highlight is that almost all materials showed in this movie are Moscow Design Museum archives. And although we are a rather young museum, we are like 10 years old only, but we already got hold of a massive collection of Soviet and Russian design, and we preserve it. And actually, it may seem strange to people from other countries like you, but as in America, design is worshipped. Designers are worshipped and were worshipped, and but in Russia and in the Soviet Union, designers were forgotten, and they are being forgotten, and their archives are being lost all the time. And we are like the only organization in Russia who seriously preserves their archives. And this movie is a performance, is a show of what we've got. Well, actually, a small part of what we've got. And another aim that we had, that we set, and was to reveal names of designers, because there were many good designers in the Soviet Union and in Russia, and many of their designs were like mold breaking, experimental. They were trailblazers. These designers were trailblazers, but people just didn't know their names. I mean, like customers or citizens, Soviet citizens, didn't know their name. And we wanted to change it. Like everybody knows Raymond Loewy or Milton Glaser or Henry Dreyfuss. But today you will watch an episode dedicated to Soviet design in general, and there you will hear such names as Vladimir Kabylinsky, as Svetlana Mirzayan, Alla Levashova, and people actually didn't know these names until they saw this movie. So it is like our investigation. We are carrying out investigation all the time, and this movie is the result of this long investigation. Yep.
Sveta, thank you very much for such an interesting introduction, but I have a question. Was there a reason that the names of Soviet designers were not promoted by the state, and or why this situation is happening, that these designers' names are forgotten and the archives are lost?
Well, mainly it was the reason for this is that most designers worked at special design bureaus at factories and plants, and their names were just overlapped by names of factories. Their names were just not important in the scale of the whole country and in the scale of mass production. But of course, the another reason was that everything was communal in the Soviet Union, like communal flats, common problems, common wealth, and well, common design. There should be common design. Then it means that anyone can be author of this thing that you use every day. Anyone and no one. It doesn't matter, actually. It can be you. This is a strange paradox.
Well, thank you very much. So let's watch the film, and we will come back for questions and answers after the movie with Sveta.
Great.
Thank you very much, Svetlana, for such another great series. As a representative of Moscow Design Museum, I wanted to thank you on behalf, and this is a very important one because it brings back the names of the designers and actually traces many areas, and gives tributes to many people who did really shape the not only design area, but the cultural atmosphere beyond that. Some of them I had the privilege to communicate and even work with. For example, even Veda Zimmerli did a publication with Boris Trofimov. I had the privilege to be connected with Maxim Zhukov for some projects, and mostly, of course, graphic designers. But this was very interesting and important series out of the
Yeah, graphic designers are usually better known, but industrial designers, those are names of industrial designers that people usually don't know. And these people that took part, that gave interview, they even said like, thank you for showing us, because we thought that we would die and no one would know our name actually.
Yes, and also Miron Lukyanov, he was a poster designer. I just wanted to mention that we had also the privilege of collaborating with his son,
Sure.
who actually also helped Sasha and I to shape the concept exhibition, and came up with a creative design solution for the show. But I have a few questions, if you don't mind, and
Sure.
more related to industrial design. And one of them is the idea of recycling, and which which was seemed to be kind of Soviet policy, because you had to bring back the bottles, and the pioneers were bringing paper recycling and even metal to their school. It was a requirement and a competition, which group brings more. Can you comment on that? Was it kind of a Soviet national policy, or
Yes,
what
yes,
was
it
it?
it was. It was, but it was kind of forced sustainability, as it was mainly caused by scarcity of resources. And this scarcity started together with the Soviet state during the revolution times. And that is where paper architecture and unrealized projects of constructivism and Soviet design, this is where they come from, actually, from this scarcity. And it was also about they lacked financial resources as well. So it was quite natural to recycle as much as they could. Also to produce durable design. And of course, we use such things as string shopping bags or avoiskas that can be now called sustainable. We use glasses instead of single-use cups, which is again sustainable, though during coronavirus it may be not the best idea. Also, Soviet designers invented modular clothes. They did a lot of folding furniture and modular furniture that was kind of sustainability as well. And also, the first cardboard furniture, by the way, was designed by Soviet designers as well. It was done by Vnite for the 1975 XID Congress in Moscow, International Industrial Design Congress. Another thing was an experimental design program was carried out by Vnite again in the end of 70s. It was called Tamar, and it dealt with recyclable materials. There was an experimental area, an experimental district area in Moscow, and there was specially equipped to collect, to sort, and to recycle. Well, to give materials to recycle, to be recycled. Yeah, but then the Soviet Union collapsed, and this all disappeared with time. And also, Soviet design, many Soviet designs were based on principles of economy for the reasons mentioned above, and it reminds me of story here in the movie. You were introduced to Svetlana Mirzayan, the author of Rough Automobile, that was mass produced and mass exported actually to Estonia, Latvia, Hungary, so to closer Europe. And she is a very prolific and prominent designer. She's still working, and she's still teaching at the university in St. Petersburg, at the Design Academy in St. Petersburg. And she once told us a story of one of her designs. It was a wall light, and first produced in 1969. And I guess, and the story was that the lightning plant didn't have some equipment to produce one of the necessary components, a reflector for this wall light. And Svetlana Mirzayan had to go on tour to other plants, and finally she found a plant that produced teapots that had one component from their teapot that could be used by her as a reflector for her wall light. And with minor alterations, she just had to drill the bottom So with these alterations, this was used as a reflector, and the product was approved, and it was mass produced, and these wall lights were used all across the country. So half wall light, half teapot.
Well, how interesting how you used your creativity in different directions.
Well, as I know from interviews with designers, with Soviet designers, this was like a usual thing to do, to use your creativity because of scarcity of resources.
Well, there is no evil without good, as they say. But
Yeah.
we have a few questions. Gretchen writes that really great and interesting history, and the question. So she's curious to know the relationship between all union and so
Well,
relationship.
if I get I see the question. If I get the question right, so if I get the question right, what were there any actual relationship between institutes, different institutes, right?
Yes, I guess between the furniture institute and the fashion house, right?
Well, basically no, as these were different. These institutes, they were like they worked under different bodies, governmental bodies, like the fashion house. It was a light industry, the Ministry of Light Industry, and fashion house was under this light industry. And furniture institute, I don't actually remember which one, but not the light industry, as I remember, not sure. Anyway, these were different institutions. They had different employees, and well, yes, I guess they knew each other, like, you know, like people from the same sphere know each other. Sometimes I think they have had mutual friends, like people from Vnite that had branches all over the country. So like this, yep.
But there's also elaboration on the question. So basically, in the US, there was this trade secrets, right? And the question, I think, is whether there were these trade secrets between the institutions in the Soviet Union, or was it a kind of a joint program that was...
Well, there were no secrets within the Soviet Union, right? There were secrets outside, like with outside countries, nations, but within, well, there wasn't any need actually. Soviet ideology was about sharing. As I said, everything was communal, and well, Vnite was organized to bring designers together, to educate them, to give them information, to provide them with opportunities. Actually, designers tended to work together. These were authorities like directors of factories and plants who could be named as opponents, right? Who the designers had struggles for their designs with directors of plants, not with each other.
Right, but was there? I think that the Soviet designers. I think it's a very interesting topic, essentially, because the Soviet designers were striving to create this kind of environment, right, for the Soviet citizens. So there was they were not so much in like ideologically in competition with each other, rather than this kind of communal desire to
idea-driven design.
Design, right, to transform the environment. So and how these innovations were there innovations shared between the industries, or people pretty much were focused on their own topic? Do you know?
Well, innovations like I just like what? It depends on innovations, you know. Well, innovations in furniture, like when modular furniture was designed by Sluchevsky. Well, everybody knew that as it became well, they started to produce it, so it wasn't actually an innovation anymore. Everyone could do it if they needed to. So if fashion could use it somehow, I don't know.
So there was
then
no
it's good.
patent, there was nothing like that, right? So
Well,
once
they
it was produced, so once the idea was released, there was no patent, there was no
well, there
copyrights,
was no,
nothing.
well, there was, but there was no. It belonged not to a designer. It belonged to the factory, and there wasn't any other factory actually who could produce it, who produced it.
Anyway,
So yeah, there wasn't any competition. Yes, there was a patent, but this product belonged to the factory, and no one who actually was interested in producing any more anywhere else.
mhm. Well, yes, it's just I think
Yeah, it's a matter of
public is wondering how this worked outside of the market.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's a matter of economic system.
yes, yes. So basically, mostly on enthusiasm and on the lack of, and I think that protection was the lack of possibilities to to actually set up industry and produce things freely without state control. Probably that would
Hmm.
be my guess.
I
And
see. I see two more interesting
yes,
questions.
so there's question from Diana about women and how much opportunity and recognition did women designers get, and were they able to advance to leadership position, because there was a lot of women designers that were represented in the film.
Well, there were also a lot of women everywhere because together with revolution, there came the idea of women being equal to men. And this communal flats, for example, the idea of communal flats, of comunas, they were called like this, was to free a woman from a burden of keeping home, of cooking, of raising children, of washing the floors, and to give her an opportunity to go to work, to go to plants, to factories, to design something if she can, to draw, and yeah, women were given much more opportunities than before. At the same time, I cannot say that women designers were somehow worshipped more than men, as designers were not worshipped. So it wasn't actually important, was it a woman or a man? Inside institutions, inside VNITE, inside design bureaus, women had equal rights with men, let's say so. For the public, women were not more prominent than men. They were equal.
Well, yes, and I think it generally hits the question of problem of feminism and the structures, which in the Soviet Union was slightly different, because yes, indeed, revolution gave equal rights to women and men, but so many Russian women don't understand feminist discourses as they are projected in the West, but there are other components to it, such as, for example, still the necessity of leading the household while also making the career, and other issues too. But we have another question from Derek. I understand that the designers were encouraged to create, but how much freedom did the designers actually have? Were there any restrictions present by the state that the designers had to adhere to?
Well, yes, they were restricted by abilities of production system, and that was too much for many of them, because well, there were millions of designs that were not realized for the reason that some plant factory or director or chief producer, I don't know, didn't have interests in changing, or opportunity sometimes, in changing the production line to get this new design produced, as well, there was no competition. People bought whatever they were given, and actually, as it was said in film, sometimes furniture, for example, wasn't sometimes even so it was transported to the shop, and then it was sold right away without taking it inside the shop, right? So these queues, they are historical in the Soviet Union. So there was no competition, and producers realized that everything that they would buy, that they would produce, it would be sold. So what's the use of improving anything, of making anything better, then it is already as good as it is.
Right, but also my understanding is that within the design institutes such as VNIT, designers had the pretty large amount of freedom to actually create or dream up what they would want to. That's the question of that they could not really put into the production. So, so
they even had their production inside the institute in VNIT. They had, sorry for interrupting. They had how do you call it? Отдел, department. Yeah, they had a department, an experimental production department. For example, Vnita Taxi, that was showcased in the previous episode. There were several models, working models, that were produced inside Vnita. From their own materials, with their own like hands, right? And these working models were used as an experiment, and they ran across Moscow. Yeah, so Vnite designers were restricted the less, let's say so. Mm-hmm. But still, you can draw and invent anything, but it costs nothing if it is not produced. Right,
right, or even preserved in an archival.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes.
Maria asks to what extent the Soviet designers were aware of the design products of other countries, and did the Soviet designers learn from designers in the capitalist countries as well?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So here we need to draw distinction. Not sure that. Okay, so yeah, two different stories: Vnite and design bureaus at factories. So they factories like automobile industry, like guitars. I remember, for example, there was one guitar in the Soviet Union that were a complete copy of a Japanese one, and it was part of like a spy mission when people went to Japan and copied it. But these were not designers actually who did it. These were authorities who commissioned it, right? And Vnite had their own projects. They didn't copy anything, though they had the biggest library of foreign designs that was in the Soviet Union at all, because they were subscribed to every good magazine or whatever on design, book on design from all over the world. And they were not forbidden to do this, because all other people were forbidden to read this, and Vnita was allowed, the only place where you were free to do this. And this freedom made them to invent more, not to copy, but to invent.
So basically, they were well informed of what was going on in their field in the West, and that gave them the enough, education, strength, and power to actually move forward with
and to educate designers, to educate. They made a trademark, for example. This was a kind of mechanism to control designers that were not part of VNITE, designers that worked at special design bureaus, at factories. So VNITE didn't have direct power, but they used this quality mark to control these designers, because without this quality mark you couldn't mass produce. If you want to mass produce, you should bring your project to VNITE, and VNITE, with all its knowledge, its background, and knowing what is going on in the world, would give its recommendations. What should be changed in order to get this quality mark? And if you change it, then you get the quality mark, and VNITE gets good design.
Could you comment on how this link between VNITE, who develop new projects, and the bureau at the factories work? Because they seem to be a bit disconnected. It's not like VNITE actually had the power to implement the projects within the factories. The factory had its own designer who being so close, would probably be more successful in pushing through their products with the factory. So this is not the case.
Well, at first, so VNITE was empowered to tell other designers what to do, actually. But well, these are people relations, no one has to do anything if some person just says you should do it. So this is where VNITE started to face problems. But very often designers that worked at plants were like in between director of the plant on the one hand and VNITE on the other hand, and this designer just tried to do his best to please the both sides, and only when VNITE invented the quality mark, they started to actually take control over what is going on in real production, not in paper, imaginary production. This was their sly step to make design better.
Mm-hmm. And this quality mark was assigned by VNITE, was awarded by VNITE. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, thank you so much, Svetlana.
Thank you for watching.
Fascinating story.
I hope you liked the movie, and you've got one more episode ahead. Contemporary design, and Sasha, the director of our museum, will give her comments on it. So you will hear much more next time.
Well, thank you, and I hope to see you next Thursday at 4 p.m.
Not me, Sasha.
Our members of our audience.
I'm sorry.
I'm inviting everyone to join us next week at 4 o'clock for the final series of the program, which will deal also with contemporary Russian design. Thank you, and see you next week. Thank you, Sveta. Bye.
Thank you.